Hello, I'm Todd Inman. I'm the board member on scene, and we'll be briefing tonight where we're at in the investigation in regard to the CRJ accident with the Sikorsky helicopter. Let me just start with, as usual, our hearts go out to all the families of the victims. In fact, I just spent the last several hours with them before we came here, and I apologize that we had to move this back. But they are one of our primary concerns, along with making sure we get factual information out. They are having it's a hard time for them, obviously. And we want to do everything we can to make sure they get the most accurate information and factual. And has always been at the core of the NTSB mission, our job is to just come out with the probable cause, but then more importantly, make recommendations so that this type of tragedy never occurs again. So today, I know yesterday you saw the chairman, myself, and all the board members here. I just want to let you know they are still actively involved with this. We're just trying to make sure we're dividing and conquering. The chairman and I have had multiple conversations today. She's helped out a lot in making sure we're getting the investigative needs we have. And she's at the command post right now working with some of our people. I'd like to start by just thanking the first responders. When this first happened, a unified command was set up, and we had a lot of important people that came and worked with us. In Virginia, the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, Arlington County Fire and Rescue, Arlington County Emergency Management, Arlington Police, Alexandria City Fire, Alexandria Police, Virginia State Police, the NCR Incident Management Team, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, the Virginia Department of Transportation, the Virginia Senator Warner's office, MWA's Fire and Rescue Team, MWA Police. A special shout out to every one of them. MWA has been amazing in helping and working with us, and we're truly appreciative. Along with DC Fire and Rescue, just extraordinary in taking the lead. Prince William Fire and Rescue. In Maryland, the Montgomery Fire and Rescue, Prince George's Fire and Rescue, Charles County Fire and Rescue, Baltimore Fire, Baltimore Police, Anne Arundel Fire Department, Maryland State Police, Maryland Natural Resource Police, MPD, DCFD, and from the federal side, the U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, FBI, Secret Service, Customs and Border Patrol, Park Police, DOD, Naval District Washington, American Medical Response, and yes, the U.S. Department of Labor. All of those have been amazing partners and are one of the reasons why that this investigation continues to progress the way we want it to. As I said, we did family briefings last night, and today there are over 100 family members that are now in the area receiving briefings, and as part of a legislative requirement, receiving family assistance. They have been briefed by the medical examiner, the fire chief, NTSB chairman, and myself, along with the family assistant unit from PSA Airlines. In regard to NTSB staff, all staff are now on scene that have been requested, and I want to point out one specific staff member because we're doing a joint NTSB and DOD investigation. The NTSB actually has a Black Hawk certified pilot on staff, on our personal staff, based out of Alaska. Once we realized the dynamics and the intricacies of the Black Hawk, we have brought that member in. They are on scene now, providing direct technical assistance to the NTSB. Now, it does not mean that the DOD is not working and helping with us, but in order to maintain our independence, we have our own Black Hawk certified pilot in the working group for helicopters. Regarding salvage at this point, the Navy Supervisor of Salvage is conducting salvage operations at the current time. Barges are en route from Virginia Beach, and we anticipate them to be on scene early tomorrow morning. After their arrival, they will be secured, located, and then significant salvage operations will continue. They are ongoing right now, but this will be the main lifting. It's being done in conjunction with the DC Medical Examiner's Office in order to make sure simultaneously that any additional victims are recovered and immediately turned over to them for identification and returned to their families. SupSal, which is the supervisor of Salvage, is also conducting a debris mapping right now. This will help in our post-accident analysis of how the machine actually reacted to the incident. It'll also help us with understanding some of the airworthiness and crashworthiness and human factors. We have right now two distinct debris fields. One that houses the Sikorsky, which is in comparison to the CRJ, a little bit smaller. The CRJ is in another distinct area, and we consider a little bit larger. The good news is, based upon the initial mapping, while there are some small aspects of that debris field, there are large chunks that will be easily recoverable, and it will aid in the investigation when we bring it into the secured facility that will be located here on MWA. That will help us in the close proximity to be able to review and evaluate. Yesterday, we outlined for you a number of groups that have been stood up. A few of them in particular I want to call out, although every one of them have been working very hard. For your edification, the ATC group, Air Traffic Control, has been conducting interviews today. They're ongoing tonight. They will be ongoing for probably the next few days. We've had full cooperation in getting the witnesses that we need to gain those interviews. We will then take that information and match it with other data that we're receiving, and if necessary, conduct follow-up interviews at a later time. Our operations group now has on site an exemplar airplane similar to the CRJ 700. It's on a hard stand here at MWA. They will use that to evaluate cockpit configuration, seating, things like that. So whenever the salvage comes up, we're able to use an exemplary aircraft to match it against examples such as where maybe switches are, navigational aids, electronics. It is almost the exact same configuration as the incident aircraft. I want to clarify one thing. There's been a lot of questions and discussion regarding manifest. Let me make this very clear. The NTSB will not and has not released a manifest. We have not in our history, not in our past. We will not be in this accident. In fact, there's specific congressional language that whenever it is in our possession, it is not available through the Freedom of Information Act. It will not be included in our report. We will not be putting any names of any of the victims. Any release of that information will come from other individuals or groups. Regarding the recorders, as many of you saw last night, we recovered from the CRJ 2 separate recorders. One was a FDFR, that is a flight data recorder, FD. That was actually in what we consider good condition. As part of that process, it was soaked in alcohol overnight. It was then opened today, and we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to get a full download in the very near future. Now, once we do have that download, we will not be releasing immediately the information regarding it. We will have to go through, correct the data sets, make sure they're synchronized. This has approximately up to possibly 2,000 data points. Is that right, Bryce? So all of that has to be synchronized and looked at. It's a very laborious practice. It takes a lot of time. Regarding the CRJ's cockpit voice recorder, once it was recovered and opened, we found that it had water intrusion. That is not uncommon. It is not an unusual event for us to receive a recorder with water intrusion. We deal with that all the time. Our recorders division is one of the best in the country, in the world actually. We have recorders sent everywhere, so there's a step. The CVR was soaked overnight in ionized water. at which point the team put the CVR into a vacuum oven in order to extract moisture. They are still checking electrical connections to determine if they're ready to try a download. It is one step of many steps that we will take in order to get that data, but we have a very high level of confidence that we will have it. We just have to work through a number of steps. Lastly, on recorders, the Sikorsky, where the CRJ has two separate recorders, the Sikorsky has a combined cockpit voice recorder and digital flight data receipt recorder. It's in one box. I can report to you now, we have recovered the Sikorsky black box. It is safely at the NTSB headquarters. It will begin an evaluation, just as the other two recorders did last night, to determine when and how to take action. I can tell you from a visual inspection, we saw no exterior damage that would indicate that it was compromised at this time. So we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to have a full extraction from that as well. Those are some of the significant updates we have right now. Obviously, we'll be doing some more in the essence of time and making sure our team gets back. I think we're going to be able to take maybe 4 or 5 questions. I'll call on you and I'll repeat it. So we'll try to play that game a little bit, please. Right here.
Thank you very much.
Your name and outlet, please.
Jonathan Kersley from Channel 9 Australia. Captain Sully Sullenberg, one of the heroes of the incident on the Hudson, has said that he has said we absolutely should be reviewing airspace, not just here but in other places where there's a complex mix of traffic. Is he right? Is there time for a permanent shift in DC and across the country to keep airspace safe and separated between military and civilian aircraft?
So the question for those watching, is it this time now for us to possibly deconflict or change some of the airspace where military aircraft operate with commercial aircraft? I can't give you a definitive answer on that. What I can say is in this incident, it should not have happened. We have in aviation what's called a Swiss cheese approach, wherein if something fails, a backup should catch it. Multiple layers of redundancy. It's been a very long time since we've had a major aviation incident in the United States, and that's the reason why it's one of the safest forms of transportation in the country. But the only way they do that is by investigating what happens now and then making recommendations in the future. Again, the NTSB has done 100,000 aviation investigations. We've issued 15,000 recommendations. Over 84% have been accepted. Once this investigative report comes out, we will be advocating probably for years for changes that need to be made, but we'll not speculate on what needs to be done until we have the facts.
Todd, is there anything obvious?
Hey, I'll call on people. Sorry.
Member Dave Jefferson from Warriors, can you talk about how long you think it will take to recover the debris, how long you plan to be on site, and have you got any early data yet off the ATC tapes?
I think that was 3 or 4 together. How long the debris will take, how long we'll be on site, and have we gotten any information off of the air traffic control tapes. The debris, we are hopeful once the mapping is done that it will be done in what I will call quick order. I can make no guarantees of that because first and foremost, we need to make every effort and to make sure we're recovering every one of the people that perished in this accident. We'll have some cranes that'll be coming up, and once that happens, you'll see a lot more activity and we'll be moving that in, but I don't want to give you a definitive time. I would say it will start in earnest probably on Sunday, and it will go through next week, and some of that's contingent upon weather and other things. Regarding the ATC tapes, we've received a lot of different information on ATC, and so I'm just going to preempt it. Off-the-shelf software programs are not always as accurate as the data we specifically get from ADSB, from the black boxes. All of that are factors that come into our investigation. So we will not speculate about ATC tapes that you may have heard and seen online or snippets. We are getting the full cooperation that we need to be able to make an accurate assessment and to make sure what we are saying is factual and that it will help and aid in the entire investigation. You?
Todd, Steve Cooper from Channel 7 in Boston. Is there anything glaring from the videos that we've all seen that would tell you that the pilot in the Black Hawk helicopter made a mistake?
The question is, based on the videos, have we drawn any conclusions? We have not. We know that there was a significant incident in which the two aircraft collided, a pretty significant fireball. If you will recall, even after the first day, we only had maybe 1 or 2 grainy images that were coming out. We're seeing more and more at this time. So we're still collecting data, but we are not going to opine until we see a lot of other things in there. A couple more? Yes, sir.
On TV with CNN, how critical is it to interview the controller in the tower cam? How concerning is it to you, the reports that that controller was working 2 positions at the same time?
So the question was, how critical are the air traffic control interviews and basically staffing? So air traffic control interviews are critical. That's the reason why there's a process in place. That began immediately after the accident. It was preservation of that evidence. It was immediately taking down notes, getting logs, all that information. We will go back and look at any air traffic controller that was involved in this. We'll go back and look at their past probably 72 hours, even 2 or 3 weeks. We'll look at their training, their hiring, everything, what they probably ate that day. But it is not one point that tells us everything. It's layered into a lot of other information that's very critical. Regarding staffing, the FAA has had a very robust plan in looking at staffing. Obviously, we'll be looking at not only staffing that day, but progressively staffing. How many people, what job functions they were doing. Were they being combined? Were they not? What was the weather outside? What was the number of landings? I recall back during COVID, 1 runway was being used. Runway 1, that was the only one. 33, as traffic came back, started being opened up. So we would look at changes in traffic patterns, construction at the airport, all of that. It all paints a very big picture.
Can I just follow up on that?
Who are you? Sorry.
Sorry, Leah with APD. Have investigators interviewed air traffic controllers at this point?
The question is, have we interviewed air traffic controllers? Yes. I think I started with,
Were they working at the time?
sorry.
They were working at the time?
I'm sorry, the clarification, was it an air traffic controller that was working at the time of the accident? Yes. Yes. Now, I'm not going to speculate. Sorry. Nope, sorry. I'm not going to speculate. The next question is, was there 1, 2, 3? I don't have the answer for that right now. I know that the controller that was working at the time has been interviewed, and his interviews are ongoing throughout the day. Yes, ma'am. Last one.
CNBC. Has President Trump reached out to you personally or anyone else from the White House to you or anyone else on the board? And if so, can you describe the nature of those communications?
The question is, has anyone from the White House reached out to me or other board members? I won't speak for other board members. I know that the chair did a briefing yesterday. It was publicly discussed and gave some information. I have not received any contact. I'm going to go back to something we talked about earlier. The NTSB is an independent bipartisan board. 58 years as the gold standard. Our job is to find the facts, but more importantly, our job is to make sure this tragedy doesn't happen again, regardless of what anyone may be saying. Our investigators never want to see this happen again, and I never want to have to go back and brief another set of family like that. Thank you.
Facts. President Trump was wondering why this helicopter was flying above 200 feet.
Which one? The other one?
No, this camera. This camera. You can drop that mic.